I wanted to address something today that a lot of you have been approaching me about lately, and the age bracket for this just runs the gamut. It really doesn't matter, but there are a lot of you who are wondering, what is the purpose of your life? Now, let me just be upfront and clear. I did figure out what is the purpose of my life, but I only just recently figured it out. And by recent, I mean just a few weeks ago. And how I did that is just, it's a bit of a long-winded, crazy, synchronistic story, but I can't tell you the immense amount of peace and inner freedom that I feel knowing that. And a lot of you have come to me with that question for yourself because you've sensed it and you've seen it in me, though I have not announced it. But that feeling inside of me has radiated so strongly, so well, and so obviously that a lot of you have just immediately, as soon as I figured it out, it was so obvious that all sorts of people just have been approaching me and asking me all kinds of questions, and sometimes in some cases it's just been triggering that, hey, something's going on, like I something is wrong. I want to figure something out for myself too. Maybe you don't even know that what you're trying to figure out is how to have more purpose in your life. And so let me just make one thing very clear for you up front right now. The purpose of your life is to serve others. And it doesn't matter how we do it and where we learn from and what we're doing and how we figure it out. It doesn't matter. The purpose of your life is to serve others. So most of us, when we are in any situation, are often asking the question of, what can we take from the situation? So if you're trying to figure out what your college degree is going to be, or when you're trying to make friends with people, or you're trying to, go to a social event, the first question in your subconscious mind is, what can I get from the situation? Money, networking, some sort of inner satisfaction and value out of hanging with these people. But I want you to consider asking, what can I give? How can I serve? And that changes the very dynamic of how you live your life. If you start living your life more out of a perspective of serving and giving, things really change. And I want you to think about, what are your top talents? What are your passions? What did you really want to do and be when you were a child? And these are questions that you very likely have seen in relation to the question of what is the purpose of your life, but probably haven't really sat down and given it some thorough attention. I didn't either. I didn't for the longest time, and I don't regret it necessarily because I love the path that I went on and how I got here, so I don't regret anything. But I do wish I had paid attention, and I want you to pay attention. I want you to give yourself that gift of really taking your time to sit down and figure out, what are your passions, what are your top skills, and how can you give to the world. And it may take you a while. It may take you several days, weekends, or hours of really sitting down and writing it out. What are your passions? Why? How does this serve others? How does this serve others? What does this feel like? And what does that feel like? And then what does that feel like? What does that feel like? And digging down and digging down and digging down. So I'll give you my story. I grew up being quite what I was titled as being bossy, but I always considered myself to be a leader. I always saw myself as someone who can really take charge and be the front man and, own my stuff. But a lot of people in my culture saw me as bossy and nagging, and so they tried to stamp that out. So I spent a lot of my life in the space of conflict of being who I was internally, but negating, seeing that as a relating it to being a negative thing because women aren't supposed to be bossy. No, it's not that I was bossy. I'm the boss, as Beyonce says. And I know a lot of times when I used to think about the question of what are my passions and what am I really good at, and I never was able to pinpoint it, but I knew growing up I really loved digging and finding things. So I would take electronics apart, figure out how they work, put them back together. I love figuring out how strategies work, whether it's in business or marketing, just anything, how people work. I used to love, I still do, of course, I love people watching, people observing, and I love to play with the idea of being an archaeologist, especially Egyptian archaeology. And I used to really, really be passionate about animals. I still am very passionate about animals. So I thought, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I never was able to connect all of these dots from these different things that I love and wanted to do and wanted to be. So it was a very long and confusing road because I never had the guidance, never sought the guidance, never sat down with myself to really figure out that what do all of these things have in common? Where do I really stand out? And over the years, I have spent so much time in the obvious that I never really realized because I didn't pay attention that what am I really good at? So over the last few weeks and months, I have finally come to the conclusion that I am really, really good at teaching others. I have put a lot of hours under my belt in terms of nutrition, the new face of nutrition, spirituality, and how we can relate it into our lives and reconcile it with our lives now, especially considering some of our cultures. I know I'm from a Pakistani culture. I was born into a Muslim family. We were very traditional growing up and so much confusion. I could not relate to a lot of the stuff that I was being told, both in terms of culture and religion. And I have really built and developed that freedom of being into my life after having gone through this journey. But the key thing was that when I actually spent time really figuring out what is the connecting dot, like where was I really as a child? Where did I really want to be as a child, right? It came to me in an instant flash. I remember before I ever moved here from Pakistan, back when I was living in like this la la land, I was very young, I was like maybe 6 years old. I used to have this book bag, a teacher's book bag. And I used to tell my grandmother and my aunt, I was being raised by my aunt and my grandmother at that time, uh, I used to tell them, I want to build a school. I want to be a teacher. And it's taken me 30 years to come full circle and remember that I wanted to be a teacher. Now again, I don't regret my journey. I don't. I love what I've learned over the years. I consider it all a necessary part of how to be an effective teacher now, and really figuring out what I wanted to teach, because I know I don't want to be a teacher under these conventional circumstances. I am more of a coach and a guide. I know that a lot of my friends and family members see me as a guiding light on a lot of different topics and issues, especially the younger generation who feels very, very confused and don't know where to go on this path of what their family has been telling them about what to do in terms of career, or even society, really, how to behave, how to be, and how. And then on the same hand, you hear a lot about having meaning in your life and having a purpose in your life and doing what you're passionate about, but then you also are confused because you need money to survive and you think a lot of these things won't bring you income. And to be honest, we don't have to have a job where it is our passion or our purpose in life. You can have a part of your life that serves others, that serves your passion, that serves the innate gifts that you were born with, without having it be your job and career right now. It could change over time. You can work on slowly making that change, as I am now. It doesn't have to be that you suddenly just drop everything, and that's, that's scary. It's scary on a multitude of levels in a variety of ways. But what I really want to impart with you guys is honor your gifts, honor your talents, honor what you were born with. Don't let it go to waste. Don't die with your music still inside of you. And I know you have a masterpiece inside. So take the time, sit down, however long it takes, figure out what your passions are. Just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, and figuring it out and figuring it out. And at the core, I can guarantee you that your passions, your talents, your gifts always have something to do with serving others for the benefit of them. It has nothing to do with you taking. So figure it out. Tell me what you discover, and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.